Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jody, and over here it's just you, me, and math, where we go over all sorts of different things. Now today, I'm going to do a highly requested topic, and that is everything to do with negatives and positives. So if questions like this, and this, and this, and all of these make you nervous, make your heart stop a little bit, then this video is for you. So stay tuned, and let's get right into it. Negatives and positives can be very frustrating, I know. So what I'm going to start off with is multiplication and division, because these rules are very straightforward. They don't change. The rules don't change with addition and subtraction either. It's just getting used to them. But let's start off with multiplication and division. So what you want to note is that with multiplication and division, when the signs are the same, so if you're multiplying two positives or you're dividing two positives, or if you're multiplying two negatives or dividing two negatives, the answer is always, always, always positive. No exceptions. It doesn't matter what number is bigger. It doesn't matter what number comes first. None of that matters with multiplication and division. So this is positive, so is this, and so is this. So what you can take from that is if you're multiplying or dividing two numbers with the same signs initially, your answer will always be positive. Now, the opposite of that is if you're multiplying or dividing two numbers that have different signs, so one of each, negative, positive, again, doesn't matter which one comes first, your answer will always, always, without exception, be negative. So these ones are going to come out to be negatives. Again, doesn't matter which number is bigger, doesn't matter which number came first, none of that matters. Same sign, positive. Different signs, negative, every single time. So let's do some examples. You're going to see that sometimes there's parentheses around the numbers, sometimes there's not. There's no hard, fast rule that says you do or don't have to use parentheses, and it's not going to change the value of the question. No matter what your numbers are, you just want to look at your symbol in between and what your signs are. Now, if a number is negative, it does have to state that it's negative by having a negative sign in front of it. However, if it's positive, you usually won't see a plus sign out front, so it's just assumed to be positive. So this 10 and this 3, they're both positive numbers. The 4 is positive, and so on. So since we have two positives here, the answer is going to be positive, and it's going to be 30. Now you can write, again, the positive in front, but you don't need to. It's just a general assumption, but if you'd rather be super thorough, you definitely can do that. So here we have a negative times a positive, so when the signs are different, you always have a negative answer, so that one's going to be negative 10. Two negatives multiply to make a positive every single time, so that's 27, positive 27. Positive times negative is negative, so that would be negative 8. So again, you're going to see when the signs are different, so on this last example and the second example, we have negative answers. When the signs are the same, either both positive or both negative, you get positive answers here and here. So same here, they're both positive, so divide and get a positive. One of each, so divide and get a negative. Both negative, divide and get a positive. One of each, divide and get a negative. So I hope that clears up multiplication and division, and just memorize same signs, always positive, different signs, always negative for both operations, and you're good to go. So let's get into addition and subtraction next. The first thing I want to introduce with addition and subtraction is the good old number line. I'm also going to talk about a different method that helps for a lot of people, but I'm going to start with the number line because it's a really good visual here. So with a number line, 0 is our neutral space, so that's where we would start. Positive numbers go to the right, negative go to the left. Now with adding and subtracting, one of the things that you can do is start at the beginning number. So wherever you are on the number line with this beginning number, start there. And if you're adding, you would go, like if you're adding a positive number, so if you're adding, you go to the right, and if you're subtracting, you go to the left. And then the number tells you how many spots or how many jumps you're going to make. So for example, 2 plus 3, you're going to start on the 2. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to add 3. So adding 3 is going to make me go to the right 3 positions. So I'm just going to jump 1, 2, 3, and I land on 5, so my solution is going to be 5. So start with the first number, and if you're adding a number, if you're adding a positive like that, go to the right. If you're subtracting, you're going to go to the left. So on this one, 5, excuse my dog if you can hear her in the background. It's just the pro of living in the country, I guess. Okay, so 5 minus 2. So on 5 minus 2, we're going to start on the 5. So I'm going to just kind of erase this one. We're going to start on the 5. Now subtracting 2 means to go left 2 positions. So I'm going to go left 2. I landed on 3, so the answer to that is 3. Now those ones aren't too bad to count out on your fingers or count out loud, that's fine, but it's when you start throwing in negatives that can get a little bit confusing. So -2 plus 6, we're going to start on the -2. So I'm going to start right here. Now again, if you're adding 6, you're going to the right 6 positions. So let me erase this one very professionally with my finger. That's why I always end up with filthy hands. Okay, so -2, we're going to add 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we landed on 4. Now that means 4 is the solution. I'm going to go over the exact rules and give you kind of verbal rules to follow here in a little bit, but first we're starting with visuals. So I hope that these 3 have made sense. Now with -1 minus 4, we're going to start on -1. Now when you're subtracting a number, you go to the left 4 positions. So start on -1 and go left 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we wind up at -5. So as you can see, if you have a negative number and you're taking away another number, you're going to get further into the negatives, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But I hope this visual is helpful. Let's get into some more examples and a different way of looking at it as well. A couple more examples of how negative problems can look and can maybe try to confuse you a little bit. So when you see something like this, where you're taking 4 plus -3, or 4 minus +3, what do those mean in terms of the number line, moving things around, and such like that? Well, adding a negative or subtracting a positive, they are the exact same thing as just subtraction. So these really all are going to have the exact same solution. All you're going to do is start on 4 and go left 3. So if we start on 4 and go left 3, we're going to wind up at 1. So the answer to all of these is 1. So if you prefer things to be a little bit simpler looking, you can rewrite either of these in terms of just 4 minus 3, but sometimes it's very useful to know that subtracting is the same as adding a negative. This middle one you don't see near as often, but this one and this one I would say. Make sure you understand that they are the exact same thing. They give you the same answer and you solve them the same way. So what about these two here? When we're not adding a negative, we're subtracting a negative in between here. Well, what I like to say is that when negatives are right next to each other in a problem like that, I call them kissing negatives, and kissing is a positive thing. Of course it is. To me anyway. So if you see 2 kissing negatives, make them both become positives. So 1 subtract -3 is actually the exact same thing as 1 plus a +3, which is just 1 plus 3. So all this means is we're going to start on 1 and we're going to add 3. So go right 3 spaces. So the answer to that one is 4. So you can just change both of those to pluses, and in that case, subtracting a negative is the exact same thing as adding a positive, or just addition. So same thing here. These 2 kissing negatives here, they are going to come together to make a positive thing, because kissing negatives, kissing is a positive thing. So this is saying -2 plus 5. So we're going to start on -2, and we're going to add 5. So we're going to the right 5 positions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We wind up on 3, so the answer to these, because they are the same question, is 3. Now, one thing I will caution you against, this is a beautiful little trick, the kissing negatives, but it is not applicable if you have, say, an exponent on the outside here. So if this was -3 squared, you could not do the kissing negatives trick, and that is because order of operations would be broken if you did that. Now, that's not in this video, that'll be another video, but with order of operations, you have to do exponents before you deal with addition and subtraction. So for example, if this was 1 subtract -3 squared, you would have to do -3 squared first and then subtract that. So that'll be for another video, but I hope that that makes sense. So adding a negative is the same as just subtracting. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding. So in that way, hopefully it makes the number lines even easier. So let's get into the other way of visualizing these problems. Now we talked about how to do these on a number line. So what would be a good idea is to pause this video, pause it right now, and try to do all of these using the number line idea that I taught you about a minute ago, and see if you can get the right answers. Now what I'm going to show you is another way that resonates with even more people in my experience, and that is using money. I'm going to be using dollars, use whatever currency you like. But something that can really help is to put it into something applicable. We deal with money just about every single day in one way or another. So if you put dollar signs in front of the numbers, oftentimes it can put it into perspective for you. So for example, 3 plus 5, let's say you have $3 in your bank account and you deposit $5. So you are to the good $8. So just add those together and you have $8. So you're in the positives, $8. And of course, that's what would happen on a number line as well. Now, what if you start off with $2 in your bank account, but you take away 7, meaning you withdraw $7. So if you start with $2 and you withdraw $7, you're shooting into the negative and you're probably going to get a fine or something like that, right? So if you take $2 and you take out $7 or you spend $7, you're going to be in the hole. You're going to be in the hole $5. So you're going to be in the hole, which means that is going to be -5. Now, you could also think of this as adding a negative. So, for example, this one, 0 plus -3 is the same as 0 subtract 3, but sometimes seeing it this way with money can help because you start with $0 and you're adding a debt of $3. Maybe you bought something and you have to make a payment of $3 a month, let's just say. So if you're adding a debt of $3, you are now lower $3 each month than your starting point, so you're going to be at -$3. Now again, you don't have to put the symbols like the dollar signs in front or whatever, but if it helps you to think of it that way, then be my guest. So let's continue. Let's say we start off in the hole. We start off at -$3, and then we deposit 2. So we still haven't climbed back up all the way out of that hole that we've dug ourselves into. However, we're less in the hole than we were. So -$3 depositing 2 keeps us in the hole, but only by 1. So the answer to that would be -1. So I'm going to stop writing dollar signs on all of them, but hopefully you're getting the idea that currency, money, whatever it is, can really help to put it into real life perspective. Now 6 subtract -4. This one's interesting because I talked about what minus negative means, but let's talk about it in terms of currency. Let's say you start with $6. Now you're going to get rid of or eliminate a debt of $4. So if you're going to eliminate a debt, doesn't that mean that you have an extra $4 in your account each month? Yes, that's also a positive thing. Just like those negatives, those kissing negatives are a positive. So you could just write that as 6 plus a positive 4. So you're actually going to be at $10. So $6 eliminating a debt of 4 gets you an extra 4 on top of that 6. So now you're at 10. So hopefully it helps to think of the double negatives as a positive thing. It's also like in the English language, for example, if you say, I ain't no fool, those double negative words right next to each other, they cancel each other out and become a positive. I ain't no fool means I am a fool. So there's another way for you English people. I admire you, but I ain't you. Obviously. I teach math, not English. Okay, let's continue. So if we have 3 and we add a debt of 3, we're going to be neutral. We're going to be at $0. Now this one, there's a lot of negatives going on, but here's our kissing negatives. So we're going to make those into addition. So -1 plus a positive 6. So if you start at -1 in your bank account and you deposit $6, you're going to be in the positive $5. So hopefully that makes sense. Now this one, there's a reason that throughout this entire video I've never once said 2 negatives make a positive. That phrase, though it's true in certain situations, is not true always, and so to me it's kind of a dangerous phrase. Because if you're considering this to be money and you have an $8 debt and a $2 debt, those 2 negatives aren't going to make a positive. You're not going to then have an extra amount of money in your account each month. You have 2 debts, so you are more in debt. So -8 plus -2 would be a debt plus another debt. Means further in debt, that's -10. Thinking about the number line, if you start on -8 and you, again, this is just subtraction, if you start at -8 and you subtract 2, you're going left 2. So you're at -10, picturing it on the number line again. Similar idea here. You're starting at -6, you're taking away 1, so you are further in debt. $6 debt minus another dollar of debt, so you are in debt 7. So that one's -7. Now this one, similar to this one here. So when we have our kissing negatives, those are going to turn into kissing positives? I don't know, I'm going with it. So this is now -2 plus +4, and that is just going to be 2. These just take practice. Google them. Do whatever you need to do. I'll make some up for you. Comment, and I'll leave in the comments a bunch of examples for you to practice, and you can get better at these. So what I want to do next is actually kind of write up a chart. I really like charts and graphs and things like that. I mean, no surprise, right? I teach math. But I'm going to give you a bit of a flow chart that will hopefully help you to remember all of the rules, and you can take a screenshot, you can write it down yourselves, and it will help you with every single negative and positive problem that you have related to addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. What did I say? Did I miss one? Multiply, divide, and subtract. There we go. Okay, coming up next, flow chart. Ta-da! Here's my chart I constructed. Now, it might seem a little bit overwhelming, but I wanted it to be very thorough and include examples under each piece so that you could screenshot it, you can write it down, and you can have all the details that you need. So as a general recap, with multiplying and dividing, if the signs are the same, your answer is always positive. No exceptions, always positive. If the signs are different, always negative. Now, these are the actual mathy rules that go along with adding and subtracting. I really wanted you to understand why, which is why I went over the number lines and the money examples. But really what it is if your signs are the same, so if you're adding 2 positives or if you're adding 2 negatives, you're always going to add the numbers, but keep the sign that the numbers were. So if they were both positive, your answer's positive. If they were both negative, your answer's negative. Again, as an example, this is $3 of debt plus $5 of debt equals $8 of debt. So adding 2 negatives makes a positive. Now, this is the one that takes a little bit of practice, but when you have different signs, so whether your first number is positive or negative, if the second number is negative or positive, basically if the second one is the opposite sign, always subtract your numbers. Do the bigger one minus the smaller one. So for example here, 6 minus 10, we have a positive 6. Now remember, this is a negative 10 because it can be written like this. So this rule, knowing that subtraction is the same as adding a negative, can help you to see that you actually have one positive number and one negative number. So it apply right here. So you always just subtract your numbers. Doesn't matter which one's first or second. Take bigger minus smaller, and then whichever number itself was bigger in the beginning, he's bigger, he's more powerful, so his sign wins the battle, and his sign is the solution, if that makes sense. So for example, on 6 plus -10, we have different signs. We have a negative and a positive. This one's bigger, so when we take 10 minus 6, we get 4, but since this one's bigger, the answer takes his sign. So either think of these on number lines, or with dollar signs, or throw them into a calculator to double check, whatever you need to do, but I hope it makes sense. Couple notes here, I just mentioned it, but adding a negative is the same as subtraction. So if you see 6 minus 3, you can rewrite it as 6 plus -3, and vice versa. And subtracting a negative is addition. So there's your kissing negatives. So kissing negatives make a big old positive. So you're going to add the numbers together. I hope that's helpful. I hope that having a bit of a flow chart helps. Literally, if you go onto Google, you're going to see lots of different things that can break things down for you. But this is what I came up with. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any questions about anything down in the comments. Let me know about topics you want me to cover. Let me know if you had something in this video you wanted further clarified, or if you want more examples. I'm happy to give them to you. Thank you for watching my video today. If this little munchkin bugged you, I'm sorry, but she is just too cute to kick her out of the room. This is my little Bella. Sweetheart. Again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the time you take to watch my videos and to comment. Please subscribe down below. Please like the video and leave a comment. It can be anything. I obviously can't speak. It really helps me out, and I appreciate it, and I want to help as many of you as I can. So give me your suggestions, give me your feedback. Excuse the table shaking, that was my Rottweiler. I can't pick him up, but I can show you next time maybe. All right, have a beautiful day. Can't wait to see you next time. See you later.